4 years ago, Van Jones spoke at PDF. It was his first time here. Back then, he was running an organization called Green for All, combining environmentalism and advocacy for people of color. I don't think he knew then that he was going to go into the Obama administration, nor did he probably know all the things that were going to happen after that. He has weathered that whole experience and emerged with, I think, more wisdom about the future, started a new organization called Rebuild the Dream, and published a new book with the exact same title. And today he's going to talk to us about his ideas about the next paradigm of the American dream that draws on a lot of the notions, I think, that he first heard here at PDF and that he's been gleaning from the kind of soaking up learning that he does better than almost anybody I know. Van Jones.
Thank you. Hello. How are y'all? I am here because I need your help, also known as HEP. But we use the L in mixed company. We need HEP. I'm here because I'm glad to know that there will be an economy based on abundance. I'm glad to know that we are leaving behind the old industrial economy based on scarcity. And it gives me great hope. But between then and now, as this new world opens up, and as that old world begins to crumble and fall apart, in this country alone, 20 million people, 20 million, have fallen out of the middle class down into poverty. And they didn't fall into poverty by themselves. They fell down on top of people who've been traditionally poor in this country for a very, very long time. And I'm here because some of the people in this room have a track record of being able to take existing ideas, existing assets, existing needs, and create real miracles. And we need miracles again. I saw it happen in politics. I could divide the room talking about politics in the specific, so I won't. But in general, in the past 10 years, people in this room and people who are not in this room who think like you have been able to completely transform the way we do politics in America. Ordinary people who have been left behind by big money. Obviously, we have a challenge now with Citizens United. But that is a response to something beautiful that happened where ordinary people who have been left behind, who were falling behind in our political system, were empowered. People used, in this room, and your friends, used your genius, your creativity to crowdsource some hope for this country. And we changed politics. But while people were fixing the political system and the political process, the voting process, the economy fell apart. And while I could divide the room by trying to argue with you about who's responsible and which political party and which ideas, I can unite the room in an instant talking about the impact and the need for people like you to help us do something about it. Here is the reality. What we used to call the American dream is being killed off before our eyes. We are in a situation where we have young people who are coming home from wars to nothing. Coming home from wars, we now have these young people who are committing suicide one a day. The casualty rate from these wars, from suicides, has already outstripped anything that happened to them over there. When they're over there, they're able to do some nation building, have a job, they come home. When they're good enough for deployment, they're not good enough for employment. When they come home, they come home to no jobs, no opportunity, and they're not able to do nation building here. You got young people, many in this room, and some of your friends, graduating off a cliff every spring into the worst job market since the Great Depression with massive debt. You have homeowners who are underwater. All of this pain and suffering is happening on our watch. And at the same time, we have you. This is the American nightmare that I just described. It used to be, it was a very clear path. For my dad's generation, how do you get from poverty to the middle class? You go to college, You get a job, probably a public sector job like my dad, he was a principal. You buy a home. That is not now a springboard from poverty to the middle class. That is a trap door down from the middle class into poverty. People graduate with big debt and no jobs. The public sector work is being decimated, and other jobs are disappearing. And buying a home is not a good way to gain wealth. In a lot of places, it's a good way to drain wealth, lose wealth. 1/3 of our homes are underwater. So that is the American nightmare. In this room, there are people who have begun to create a new dream, a new possibility. Could there be an American dream 2.0 that is not based on the ideals and presumptions of the last model, not based on an industrial model, not based on the idea that we're all going to get on our credit cards and surf out to the suburbs, buy a big McMansion, buy a bunch of flat screen TVs to cover up the holes in our lives, and be happy. That was the old American fantasy. That was the old American dream. Could there be a new one based on some of the ideas in this room? Could we have one that's based on sharing what we already have? Can we become a nation of neighbors where we begin to take care of each other? Can we take some of the genius that we use to democratize and try to improve our politics and use that same genius and that same wisdom to begin to fix and repair our economy? I think that it is possible. When you look at this shareable economy, when you look at this access economy, right now it is very small. But you have people who now understand we don't have to go and buy a car. We can use Zipcar or Relay. We can use each other's cars. That reduces the expenses. That might be good in the abstract for idealistic reasons, but it's good for that mom. It's good for that person who's been left behind in the old economy. If we are able to begin to imagine an economic bridge from the old to the new, we might be able to avoid a catastrophe in this country. The problem that we have right now is that the Western middle classes are starting to shrink. This transition you're driving and doing a beautiful job, as the information economy begins to eat up the last economy, is creating in real time, a falling standard of living for a lot of people. And help is not on the way from Washington, D.C. And help is not on the way from Wall Street. The big sources of public capital are frozen. They're stuck on stupid in D.C. And the big sources of private capital are also frozen for their own reasons. The only help that can come to the people who are suffering will not be from public capital. It will not be from private capital primarily. It will be from a better use of the social capital that exists in those communities. Those communities are rich in social capital. Those communities are rich in human assets, but they do not yet have the attention of the entrepreneurs in this room. There is a disconnect that is a dangerous divide in our country between those who right now are figuring out the shareable future, who are designing the ways that people can, as a lifestyle choice, begin to help each other and share. There's a divide between that and the people for whom sharing is now a life or death choice. If we can close that new divide, you have now in the African American community alone, the community that's been most devastated in this recent transition. It's the African American community where people are being disproportionately preyed upon by some of the worst of these for-profit universities. I'm supposed to go to college, but instead I wind up going someplace, I lose all my money, and I'm still unemployable. That's happening in the African American community. Public sector jobs being wiped out. African Americans disproportionately are the post office workers, disproportionately the teachers. Why? The public sector was where we won those big desegregation battles. We're vulnerable. We're being knocked out of those jobs. They get cut back. And home ownership, which was supposed to be a ticket out, has now become a ticket down. But in those same communities where we've been taking blow after blow, our financial capital being ripped away from us, the social capital is still strong. And look at black participation rates on Twitter. We're 10% of the country, 25% of Twitter. 25%. Twitter just sent people to Atlanta to talk to the black church community that's now being organized through social media. There is a new potential audience and a new potential customer base that desperately needs a new economy. My great fear is that it will not happen automatically and it will not happen soon enough. Some of you will have to use your genius to find a way to connect this big, untapped well of social capital, full of creative people, smart people, people with different perspectives, worldviews, hustlers, hard workers, with this new social opportunity. If that begins to happen, people like myself, people who are involved in the political activism world we were just talking about, we're very good at going to Washington, D.C. and dividing the country. And we can use technology to do that better, I suppose. But at some point, we've got to start using technology, not just at the top down where we fight, but bottom up to begin to rebuild a real-time, real-world economy based on sharing, based on recognizing that the real American dream is not this American fantasy about massive individual consumerism. The real American dream is the one that Dr. King talked about. The very first thing that Dr. King said about his dream, standing up there on that platform, 33 years old, 33, looking out at that great ocean of humanity. The first thing he said about his dream, he said, I have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. He wasn't talking about consumerism. He wasn't talking about commercialism. He was talking about living in a country where everybody counts and where everybody's dreams matter. If we are going to have that version of the dream survive the transition that you are pushing forward, you will have to lead in a supplemental way to say, yes, this new abundance, information-based economy will replace what you had, but we will build a bridge to make sure that you can get where we're going. That is the moral challenge and the great opportunity. We can be in a situation with our middle classes getting smaller, where we turn on each other and not to each other. If we are left to our devices now, where we're going right now, the great danger is that rather than turning to each other, we'll turn on each other. And we will have a catastrophe on our hands. We will have paradise stolen from us at the moment of its maximum possibility. But if you pay more attention to this great well of social capital, crying out for attention from the political class and being ignored, crying out for attention from the financial class and being ignored, and stand with it, we can build a new American dream, a new human dream, a new dream for humanity, and be a nation and a globe of neighbors. Thank you very much.